The sound of shattering glass is something you don't forget. It's sharp, final, like the world exhaling for the last time. That night, I remember headlights, rain, and my wife's scream just before the car flipped. Then silence. When I woke up 3 days later, I couldn't feel my legs. The doctors called it a complete spinal injury. I called it the end of everything I thought I was. My name's Michael. I'm 39 years old, and up until that night, I thought I had life figured out. A steady job, a wife who loved me, a small house we were proud of. The accident took all of that and replaced it with pain, pills, and the slow realization that some people only love you when you're standing. At first, Emily tried. I'll give her that. She stayed by my hospital bed, held my hand while the doctors explained what no recovery really meant. She cried when the nurse taught her how to help me dress, how to lift me from the chair to the bed. I thought we'd get through it together. But grief changes people. And when it doesn't change them, it reveals who they really are. After the surgery, after the rehab, after the welcome home dinner where everyone smiled too much and talked too soft, the house got quiet. Emily stopped making jokes. She stopped touching me. She stopped looking at me. The wheelchair wasn't just mine. It was a ghost that sat between us at the table every night. I tried to be patient. I told myself she needed time to adjust. I tried to stay busy, reading, learning to drive again, starting physical therapy 3 times a week. That's when I met Nathan. Nathan was my physical therapist. Early 30s, tall, confident, the kind of guy who fills a room without trying. He was good at his job, encouraging but not pitying. We're going to make your body remember what it can do, he'd say. He treated me like a man, not a patient, and I appreciated that. Emily liked him too. She'd chat with him after sessions, laughing at jokes I didn't hear, offering him coffee when he stopped by for home visits. I told myself it was harmless. But then the small things started. Emily dressing up before my appointments. Nathan staying longer after therapy, talking to her in the kitchen while I sat in the next room pretending not to notice. I started catching fragments of conversations, whispers cut off when I rolled in, the sound of her laughter, her real laugh, the one I hadn't heard in months. I told myself I was imagining it. Paranoia from pain meds, maybe. But the human body knows when it's being replaced, and mine, broken as it was, felt it in every bone I couldn't move. The night I knew for sure, it was raining again. Nathan had finished his session, but his car was still out front an hour later. I called out for Emily. No answer. The house was quiet, except for the creak of floorboards upstairs. I rolled down the hallway and looked up toward our bedroom door. It was half closed, light leaking through. I didn't have to open it. I just sat there in the dark, listening. The sound I heard wasn't laughter this time. It was betrayal. And it was the beginning of something I didn't realize I still had in me. A plan. A plan for patience. A plan for revenge. After that night, I didn't confront her. Not right away. That's what she expected me to do. To scream, to beg, to fall apart. I stayed quiet. I pretended nothing had changed, even though everything had. Emily moved through the house like nothing happened. She smiled at me over breakfast, asked how therapy went, kissed my forehead when she thought I was asleep. I started studying her like I used to study car blueprints back when I worked at the shop. Every angle, every detail, every small imperfection that gave away the truth. I started noticing patterns. Nathan's car in the driveway on nights that weren't therapy nights. Emily's perfume lingering in the guest room. Her phone always face down. The little smirk she couldn't quite hide after texting. I wasn't crazy. I just couldn't prove it. Not yet. So, I called my brother, Calvin. Calvin's a lawyer. One of those guys who can smell a lie before the liar even opens their mouth. He was always the calm one, the problem solver. I used to fix engines. He fixed people's messes. When I told him I thought Emily was cheating with my therapist, he didn't say, "I'm sorry." He said, "Do you want proof or payback?" Both, I told him. He came over that night with a small black box in his hand. "This is a mini camera," he said, setting it on the coffee table. "High definition, motion activated, Wi-Fi enabled. You can stream it straight to your phone." I stared at the thing like it was some kind of weapon. Maybe it was. "You're sure about this?" I asked. He nodded. "You deserve to know what's happening in your own house, Mike. The truth is the only leverage that matters." We set it up the next day. Calvin hid one in the living room vent, another behind a photo frame in the hallway, one near the stairs facing the bedroom door. I told him where Nathan usually worked with me, and he positioned a small one there too, just in case. For 3 days, nothing. Emily was distant but calm. Nathan came by. We did our exercises. He left. She went to the store, came home, cooked dinner. I almost started doubting myself again. Maybe I was seeing ghosts. Then on the fourth night, I woke up around midnight and checked my phone. There was a motion alert from the hallway camera. My hand shook as I opened the app. There she was, Emily, wearing that silk robe I'd bought her for our anniversary 2 years ago. And behind her, Nathan, shirt off, hands on her waist, kissing her neck like he owned her. I didn't watch it all. I didn't need to. I turned off the phone and just sat there in the dark, staring at the wall. My chest hurt, but not from sadness, from clarity. They were careful, but not careful enough. They thought because I was broken, I couldn't fight back. That the man in the wheelchair was too weak to matter. They were wrong. The next morning, I called Calvin. My voice didn't shake. I've got what I need. He came over within the hour. I showed him the footage. He didn't say much, just let out a long, low whistle. She's done, he said. If this goes to court, she loses everything. But if you want my advice. I looked at him. Yeah. He smiled, slow and knowing. Don't waste it in court. Wait. Let them think they've won. People like that always do. And when they're comfortable, that's when you take everything. I leaned back in my chair, feeling the first real spark of control I'd had since the crash. For the first time in months, I wasn't the broken husband. I was the storm waiting to hit. I didn't confront them. Not yet. That would have been mercy, and mercy was a language I didn't speak anymore. Instead, I played the part. I smiled. I thanked Nathan after every session. I kissed Emily goodnight. I acted like the same broken man she thought I was. Harmless, dependent, grateful. Inside, I was counting days, memorizing details, building a timeline in my head. Calvin helped me set things up quietly. We started moving my money into a separate account, one Emily couldn't touch. He drafted a will, updated the property deed, rewrote insurance beneficiaries. She'll never see this coming, he said. Good, I replied. She didn't see the crash coming either. I needed time, and time, ironically, was something I had plenty of. Every week, Nathan came over. Every week, I watched another small piece of my old life rot in front of me. The way she looked at him, the way he called her babe, the way she pretended not to hear me when I asked for help getting into bed. They were bold, arrogant. They thought they were untouchable, and that arrogance was going to be my weapon. One afternoon, I pretended to sleep in the living room while they talked in the kitchen. Their voices carried. He's barely even here anymore, Nathan said. You deserve better than this. Emily laughed softly. He doesn't even notice us. He's just there. I clenched my fists under the blanket. Just there. That's what I was now, background noise in my own home. The next day, I told Emily I needed space. I'm going to stay with Calvin for a while, I said. Clear my head. She looked relieved. Too relieved. Maybe that's a good idea, she said. You've been different lately. Different? Yeah. I was thinking instead of begging. That's what different looked like. I moved into Calvin's guest room that night. He poured us 2 glasses of bourbon and asked, You ready to let her hang herself? I nodded. She already has. I'm just giving her the rope. For the next 2 months, I barely called Emily. I let her think I was fading, depressed, detached, done. Nathan stopped showing up for therapy sessions because the patient moved away. Emily stopped pretending to care. She posted photos on social media, brunches, hikes, sunsets. None with me. Then, a year later, she filed for divorce. She showed up at Calvin's office, all smiles, pretending to care. It's just better for both of us, she told him. Calvin nodded, all professional calm. She didn't know I was in the next room, listening. When the papers came, I signed them. I let her have what she asked for, half of what she thought I had. She didn't know about the hidden accounts or the property transfer. She walked out of that office lighter, happier, free. 3 months later, she and Nathan moved in together. I heard through mutual friends that she'd never been happier. He was still working as a physical therapist, she was managing some wellness spa, and they were planning a wedding. Good. They thought I'd disappeared into quiet misery. But Calvin and I were patient men. We had footage. We had proof. And we had a plan. The night, I rolled onto my back porch. Watching the last light fade over the yard that used to be ours, I felt something new. Peace. Not because I forgave her, but because I knew what was coming. They say revenge is best served cold. But they never tell you what it feels like to wait for it, to feed it, nurture it, until it's the only thing keeping you alive. Emily was going to marry the man who ruined me. And on that day, in front of everyone she loved, she was going to learn just how much fight was left in the man she left behind. The wedding invitation came in early spring. Cream paper, gold trim, printed in a font so fancy it almost looked smug. Emily Carter and Nathan Hale request the honor of your presence. I laughed when I saw it. She'd even sent it to my brother's law office, probably just to twist the knife. Calvin held the envelope between two fingers like it was contaminated. She really mailed this to us? He asked. She wanted me to see it. I said. She wanted me to know she won. Calvin set the envelope down carefully. Well, he said, let's make sure she remembers this invitation for the rest of her life. We already had the footage, 3 clips from different nights, crystal clear audio, faces visible, no question what was happening. Calvin had helped me store it safely on an encrypted drive, labeled innocently as insurance files. I never rewatched it. I didn't need to. The sound of her voice, that soft laugh that used to be mine, was still burned into me. But now, those files had a purpose. Calvin started making calls, quiet ones. He had a contact who worked with digital forensics, another who handled discrete distribution. I just listened. My role wasn't to act yet. My role was to wait. A week before the wedding, I drove, or rather, rolled, up to my old house. Emily had moved out months ago, but I wanted to see it one last time. The for sale sign out front was gone. Nathan had bought it. He'd probably told her it was a fresh start, a clean slate. The curtains were different. The flowers she used to kill every summer were replaced by neat little hedges. Everything looked perfect from the outside, just like they did. That's when Calvin called. You ready? As I'll ever be, I said. He chuckled softly. Good. Because tomorrow morning, every guest on their invite list gets an email. My heart kicked hard. You're sure it'll work? Mike, he said, calm as always. I'm a lawyer. I live for documentation. This isn't just going to work. It's going to be undeniable. That night, I barely slept. I kept seeing her in that robe, her hands on his shoulders, the look of relief on her face when she thought I was out of her life for good. I thought about the vows she'd said to me years ago, in sickness and in health. She'd lasted 6 months of sickness before trading me in for someone who could walk. But what haunted me most wasn't the betrayal. It was how easy she made it look. How quickly she'd rewritten me into a sad chapter she didn't have to reread. I woke before dawn, heart pounding. Calvin was already in the kitchen, 2 mugs of coffee on the counter, and his laptop open. Final check, he said. He showed me the distribution list, 200 names, her parents, her coworkers, Nathan's family, every friend they had invited. Subject line, a gift from Michael. Attached, a 5-minute video file named Before You Say I Do. He looked at me. You want to push send, or should I? I stared at the laptop for a long time. The cursor blinked like it was daring me. My hand hovered over the mouse. She took everything, I said quietly. Let's give something back. I clicked. Calvin didn't smile. He just closed the laptop and said, It's done. For the first time since the crash, I felt something close to freedom. Later that morning, I wheeled out onto the porch. The air was clean, the sky clear. Somewhere across town, Emily was getting her hair done, practicing her smile in the mirror, completely unaware that the foundation of her perfect new life was about to split wide open. I didn't plan to watch. I didn't need to. Revenge, I'd learned, isn't about seeing them suffer. It's about knowing the truth is finally louder than their lies. And tomorrow, when she walked down that aisle, the world would finally see who she really was. The morning of their wedding, the world was silent in that strange, expectant way before a storm. I woke early, rolled into the kitchen, and poured myself a cup of coffee. My hands were steady. My heart wasn't. Calvin called just after 8. It's happening, he said. His voice was low, like we were both standing on sacred ground. Emails are going out. I opened my laptop. The inbox flooded with delivery receipts, one after another, like dominoes falling. I imagined the guests opening their phones, seeing my name in the subject line, curiosity turning to confusion, then horror. Somewhere across town, Emily was stepping into her dress. Calvin texted me half an hour later. You might want to check social media. I did. And there it was. Her name, trending. Videos. Screenshots. Comments piling up by the hundreds. That poor guy in the wheelchair. The groom cheated with his patient's wife? This is insane. I scrolled, half numb, half thrumming with adrenaline. Someone had uploaded the clip, the one from my camera. Faces blurred by nothing. The truth naked and raw. Then I saw the photos from the venue. A beautiful church, sunlight cutting through stained glass. Guests standing outside in small groups, staring at their phones. Some leaving, some arguing. Calvin called again. You should hear this, he said, then held his phone up. Through the line, I heard shouting, muffled chaos, like 100 conversations colliding. Then a woman's voice, sharp and furious. Is this true, Emily? Tell me it's not true. Her mother. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Calvin's voice came back on. The groom's parents are furious. The priest refused to start the ceremony. They tried to play it off, said it was fake, but everyone's seen the timestamps. It's over. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. My pulse slowed. I felt light. Empty, but clean. She deserves worse, I muttered. Calvin sighed softly. Maybe. But this is enough. Let her live with it. Around noon, Emily called me. Her number flashed on the screen 3 times before I answered. I didn't say anything. Her voice cracked immediately. Mike, what did you do? What I had to, I said. You ruined my life. No, I said quietly. You did that when you walked upstairs that night. There was a long silence. I could hear her breathing, the chaos in the background. Then she whispered, I'm sorry. I believed her for half a second. Then I remembered the sound of their laughter and hung up. An hour later, Calvin showed up at my door with a bottle of bourbon. We sat on the porch in silence, listening to the wind rattle through the trees. He poured 2 glasses. You know, he said, there's a line between justice and cruelty. You stopped right at it. Maybe, I said. But she didn't stop at all. He nodded slowly. Fair enough. We clinked glasses. By evening, the news had spread everywhere. Local gossip pages, wedding blogs, even Reddit threads. Nathan's company suspended him. Emily's spa fired her after clients started canceling appointments. Her picture was everywhere. The perfect couple, undone by their own reflection. That night, I slept through the whole night for the first time in 2 years. No nightmares. No replay of the crash. Just silence. Revenge doesn't fix what's broken, I learned that much. But it evens the ground you're standing on. And for the first time since I lost my legs, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel like a victim. I felt human again. The internet is merciless. Once something's out there, it never dies. By the next morning, the story had been shared across 3 states. The headline that showed up on my feed made me laugh in disbelief. Bride exposed at the altar. Groom's affair with disabled patient revealed in viral footage. The comments were vicious. Half of them furious, half fascinated. Everyone loves a scandal, until it hits close to home. Calvin told me they never made it through the ceremony. The footage played on half the guests' phones at once. Some left, some shouted. Emily's father demanded everyone leave the church immediately. Nathan tried to give some half-hearted speech about forgiveness and private matters, but no one wanted to hear him. He walked out alone while Emily sobbed at the altar. By Monday, both of them had lost their jobs. Nathan's clinic cut him loose before lunchtime. Emily's employer released a statement about maintaining professionalism and integrity. Translation, she was fired. I didn't post anything. I didn't need to. The world was doing it for me. Every hour, new comments rolled in. People taking my side, calling me the husband who got justice. Some even started tagging me in posts. I ignored them. Revenge isn't supposed to be a conversation. It's supposed to be closure. But closure is strange. You think it's going to feel clean, but it doesn't. It's messy. It hums in your chest like static. I'd wake up at night, not from nightmares, but from silence, that eerie peace that feels almost wrong. 3 days after the wedding, she showed up at my door. I saw her through the glass, hair tangled, makeup streaked, eyes hollow. She looked nothing like the woman who'd smiled in that white dress. For a long second, I just watched her, wondering if she'd actually knock. Then she did. I opened the door halfway. What do you want, Emily? She hesitated. I needed to see you. Please. I didn't move. She looked down at her hands. You destroyed me, Mike. I almost laughed. No. I showed them who you are. Tears welled in her eyes. You don't understand. They're all gone. My friends, my family, they won't even talk to me. My parents said I embarrassed them. Nathan won't answer my calls. Sounds like karma finally got your address. Her face crumpled. I made a mistake. I was scared. I didn't know how to handle. Stop. I said it softly, but she froze. You knew exactly what you were doing. You just didn't think you'd ever have to pay for it. She stared at me for a long time, then nodded. You're right, she whispered. I didn't. She turned to leave, then paused. Are you happy now? I thought about it. No, I said. But I'm free. When the door closed, I felt something inside me shift. Not joy, not regret, something heavier. Revenge had done its job. It hadn't fixed anything, but it had stopped the bleeding. That night, I rolled out onto the porch. The air was cool, quiet. Calvin texted me, "You okay?" I typed back, "Getting there." He replied, "She'll try to make you feel guilty. Don't let her." "I won't," I wrote. But guilt has a way of sneaking in through the cracks. For days, I kept replaying her face at the door. Not the crying, not the words, just the emptiness. The same emptiness I'd seen in myself for a year after the crash. Maybe that's what justice really is. Two people finally feeling the same pain. And somehow, that thought didn't make me feel powerful. It made me tired. Still, when I looked out into the dark, I didn't regret it. Some lessons can only be taught in fire. And she'd learned hers. After Emily came to my door that day, things went quiet, eerily quiet. No more messages, no calls, no gossip floating through town. Just silence. For the first time in years, there was no one to fight. At first, I thought peace would feel like victory. But it didn't. It felt like standing in the wreckage of a house you burned yourself. The air still warm, the ashes soft beneath your feet. The danger was gone, but so was everything else. Calvin checked on me constantly. He'd swing by with takeout or coffee, pretending it was casual, but I could see it in his eyes. He was worried. "You got what you wanted," he said one evening as we sat on the porch, watching the streetlights flicker on. "Now what?" I shrugged. "I don't know. Guess I start living again." "Then start," he said simply. But starting wasn't easy. My life had been reduced to survival and revenge for so long that I'd forgotten what came after. Therapy had become mechanical, a routine without purpose. The walls of my house felt heavier, the air stale. The silence wasn't peaceful anymore. It was loud. A week later, I went back to the rehab center. The receptionist froze when she saw me. The man whose ex-wife had made national headlines with one of their own therapists. I could see the questions in her eyes, but she didn't ask. She just pointed me to a new specialist, a woman named Clara. Clara was patient. She didn't talk about Emily, didn't mention the news. She focused on movement, small, careful exercises. "You've been through a lot," she said once, when I faltered during a session. "You have no idea," I muttered. She smiled softly. "Maybe not. But I know what rebuilding looks like. It's slow, boring, and brutal. But one day, it doesn't hurt as much." I didn't respond, but something about her voice stuck with me. She didn't pity me. She saw me. The way Nathan never did. The way Emily stopped doing long before the crash. Over the next few weeks, I started showing up early. Stayed later. We'd talk about little things. Music, books, the weather. Nothing deep, nothing dangerous. It felt good. Normal. One afternoon, as I was leaving, she stopped me. "You know," she said, "you're not your worst day. You don't have to live there forever." I didn't know how to answer, so I just nodded and left. But the words followed me home. That night, I looked through my phone, old messages, photos, memories. I deleted everything. Every trace of Emily, every ghost tied to that crash, that house, that betrayal. It didn't fix anything, but it made breathing easier. I started spending time with Calvin's kids, helping them with homework, watching movies. They didn't see me as broken. They just saw Uncle Mike in a wheelchair who told funny stories and burned the popcorn every time. One evening, Clara called to check if I was still coming to therapy. I said yes, and meant it. After we hung up, I realized my hands weren't shaking anymore. That's when it hit me. Revenge had been the bridge, not the destination. It got me across the river, but it wasn't where I was supposed to stay. For the first time in a long time, I didn't think about what I'd lost. I thought about what was still left. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to start over. It's strange how quiet redemption sounds. No dramatic music, no cinematic closure, just the sound of a breeze through open windows and the steady rhythm of your own heartbeat. That's what it felt like the morning I finally forgave myself. Not her, myself. A year had passed since the wedding that never happened. The world had moved on. New scandals filled the feeds. Emily's name had faded from the headlines, and so had mine. People forget fast, except the ones who can't afford to. I hadn't seen or heard from her in months. Calvin said she'd moved 2 towns over, working part-time at some wellness center, keeping to herself. She's not the same, he said once, like he was offering me peace. I didn't need peace from her anymore. I'd built my own. Every morning, I wheeled out to the porch with coffee and watched the sunrise. I'd started painting, not well, not even decently, but enough to lose track of time. My house, once filled with tension and ghosts, finally felt like mine again. Clara was still my therapist. Somewhere along the way, our sessions became conversations, and our conversations became something gentler. She had this way of looking at me that made me forget the chair existed. She never brought up Emily or the accident unless I did. She never tried to fix me. She just listened. One day after a session, she said, "You know, you're stronger than most people I know. You don't act like it, but you are." I laughed. "You mean stubborn?" She smiled. "That too." We started meeting outside the clinic sometimes. Coffee shops, the park, simple places where no one looked at me like I was broken. I didn't know what we were, but I knew it wasn't pity. It was possibility. Calvin noticed. He teased me about it, said something about finally dating a therapist who doesn't ruin your life. I told him to shut up. But the truth was, he was right. Not about the dating, but about the living. I was living again. One afternoon, Clara asked me, "Do you ever think about her?" "Sometimes," I said honestly, "but not the way I used to." "She's the chapter 1 finally finished." She nodded. "Good. You deserve new ones." That night, I went home and opened my laptop. The folder labeled insurance files was still there, buried in my documents. For a long time, I stared at it, the evidence that had burned 2 lives to the ground. My finger hovered over the delete key. Then I pressed it. No hesitation. No second thoughts. Just a quiet click and an empty space where the past used to be. The next morning, I drove myself to the river, the same stretch of road where the crash had changed everything. The guardrail was still dented. I sat there a while, listening to the water. The sun hit the surface like shards of glass. "I'm still here," I said out loud. Not to her. Not to the memory. To me. And for the first time, it didn't hurt to say it. When I turned back toward home, I didn't look in the rearview mirror. Some things aren't meant to be watched fade. They're meant to be left behind. People always say revenge is poison. Maybe they're right. But sometimes, a small dose kills the disease before it kills you. Now, I don't dream about the crash or her voice or that night. I dream about what's next, laughter, motion, maybe even love. I may never walk again, but that doesn't mean I'll never move forward. And that is freedom.